All right, welcome to the Books, Beards, Booze podcast, where we drink booze, have beards, and talk books. I am Bob of TalesbyBob.com.
And I'm Derek from the Kingdom of Lyria, this week.
This week. Every week we tackle a number of features about the literary world. Primarily genre fiction, but anything book related we're down with. Starting out, every week we do our short read Tall Glass, and the Tall Glass this week, in case you wanted to fix it and sip along as you listen, is the Green Fairy. It's a complicated drink. I haven't made it myself because I don't have most of these things. But continuing the stories about Titania and Oberon this week, we had to go with it. But you take an ounce of absinthe, an ounce of water, the juice of one lemon. Doesn't say what size lemon. I've seen some weirdly sized lemons recently on the internet. Don't ask. 2 teaspoons of egg white, and 1 dash of Angostura bitters.
That is
complicated.
Yeah.
Fill a cocktail shaker with ice and then pour in all the ingredients. Give that shaker a good shaking and then strain the contents into a cold cocktail glass. And that is the Green Fairy.
That sounds bizarre.
Actually, the only time I've ever had absinthe was here at your house.
Oh, yeah, well, and it was
awful.
awful. God, it was awful. Was that the time that we ended up,
pouring it over? I mean, we did it right. We poured over sugar and everything.
That was we ended up bringing that bottle to a party and gave it to Shay.
Yeah. He was the only person who liked it. Ugh, God. It was like...
Shout out to Shay.
It was like drinking spoiled Jaeger. And I don't like Jaeger.
You don't even like Jaeger. Yeah.
Anyway, so diving in, our first segment is the news and booze. Derek, what are you drinking this week?
I'm drinking Jack Daniel's Single Barrel, which I got for helping my roommate's wife with a paper.
Nice. Nice. Free is always good.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even ask. They offered, and I was like, cool. I like free things.
Yeah. I will be drinking my usual Heaven and Coke. Because I'm a creature of habit and kind of poor. Got a bunch of trips coming up. Got to save.
Free.
Yeah, free is good. Free is good. So that's what we're going to be sipping on. Maybe you're going to sip on a Green Fairy. Maybe you're going to sip on something else. But we encourage you, as long as you're not driving, to have a little sip of something adult as we dive into this. So we each bring a bit of news to the content each week, and I went first last week. So Derek.
Okay. Well, my news article was not incredibly timely because it happened a couple of weeks ago, but I thought it was important to mention because it does have to do with one of our favorite book series and my personal favorite author. In a recent public discussion or Q&A session, Patrick Rothfuss came out and addressed the idea of Lin-Manuel Miranda, who did Hamilton and everything, who is the musical producer or whatever for all things King Killer Chronicle, which is Patrick Rothfuss's book stuff. Basically, any musical, anything to do on his games, on his book, or on his movies, TV shows, whatever.
Anything under the license.
Under the license, yeah. He's in charge of the music of.
That's cool. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, they have a really... That's what I'm staying encouraged by when it comes to the King Killer Chronicles, is they have a very unique setup. It's very... Anyways.
Yeah.
But when they asked him about...
Because it is troubling. It is troubling because this is the... I don't know how the greatest hope of bridging the gap between genre fiction and literary fiction.
It really is, and
so it's kind of important that this gets done well.
I don't know if it will, but again, it's a unique agreement that they have. So they have all the right modifiers for those D&Ds out there.
Yeah.
You still have to roll the die, but they're really stacking the modifiers in their favor with having creative control.
Well, I mean, you can't get a better musical director, I think. I mean, no one comes to mind.
No, but anyways,
Peter Steele's dead, so obviously you got to go with someone.
But
someone else.
in the Q&A session, they asked if Patrick Rothfuss had any ideas for who he would like to play, who in what roles for any of the book or the TV, or from the book adaptation into a movie or the TV show that takes place before it. And the only thing that he said is if Lin-Manuel Miranda would like to, he would love it if he would play Quoth's father, Arladin, who is a famous bard.
Yeah.
So I thought that.
Well, we know he can act because he also starred in Hamilton, so he's got the chops.
Yeah, from what I understand, I really want to see him. Like, I want to see it because I want to hear him sing and stuff like that too.
Do you think it's going to come to Montgomery?
I have my doubts. But again, that's why I really wish they had a recorded episode or like a recorded.
Like
video
a DVD
of it. Like I could get it on
something?
iTunes or something like
Stream
that.
it on Prime.
Like a lot of people, like there's videos of recordings of cats and stuff like that.
Yeah, there may be one. I mean,
I meant to look into it and I just haven't.
Yeah,
but,
I would definitely want to see that, and
yeah,
I don't see me making it up to Broadway anytime soon.
Maybe Atlanta.
Maybe I don't know.
I mean, I saw Lion King in Atlanta, so sometimes stuff like that comes to.
Yeah.
Anyways. But that was my
30 years from now it'll be at ASF probably. You know,
that's a little bit soon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm much more optimistic about the TV show prequel.
Yeah.
Depending on who picks it up, we're gonna need someone who's gonna sink some money into it. I feel, man. If it's sci-fi, just slit my wrist and I'm done.
No, he won't. He won't.
But like if it was like a HBO, like a Benhoff and Weiss kind of deal, something like that, I'd be all in on that. I'm so leery of the movies, unless like because they're so dense. I mean,
I just don't know how...
do a Harry Potter thing where it's like. I want 7 movies. I want these 3 books to be 7 movies.
You almost have to, and that my part of. Okay,
I can live with that.
Rothfuss discussed this a lot on the podcast that he did a while back, but like they're giving him a lot of control over these things, and part of the reason he sold the rights to who he did was specifically because they assured him of a lot of control, and it was one of those things where he basically decided. He 100% didn't need this.
Yeah.
So, the only reason he sold it to anybody was because they convinced him that it was worth the shot. Otherwise, he was like, I'm not just going to sell it to anybody just for the money. I don't need the money.
Fair. All right. Well, my bit of news is about book towns. All right. So, most of you have probably never heard of them. I know I hadn't, and Derek hadn't until I found this.
And they sound awesome.
Yeah. So here's kind of
God, we're nerds.
Yeah, right. So let's dial back a bit. A book town is a town that has made books its industry, so to speak. All right. The first one is Hay-on-Wye in Wales. It was the very first, and here's a weird snippet about me. I tend to have a weird disdain for anything Welsh. It goes back years. Sir Anthony Hopkins is the one exception. But the saving grace of Hay-on-Wye, other than being a book town, is it's really basically in England. Like, it's so close to on the border that, like, a tiny little pencil mark in the wrong direction, it would have been in England. So
I like every time you say weird, I just imagine, since it's Welsh, I imagine it's spelled with like 3 Y's.
Oh, no doubt. It's a small town, population, according to Wikipedia, of 1,598. But for that small population, they have over 20 bookstores.
That's a lot.
Montgomery right now has... all right, the Montgomery metro area is like 350,000. Mm-hmm. We have a Books A Million. We have Trade-In Books, and we have... I just learned New South Books changed their name to Reed Herring, which is a pun, and I'm on board. But yeah, we have...
I didn't even know about that bookstore.
Yeah, it's a publishing company / bookstore.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so we have 3 in Montgomery. So anyway, so they have 20, and...
we ain't got time for none of them words around here.
Right? Well, so... They do a week-long literary festival every year that pulls over 80,000 people. They have
that is a ton.
Yeah, they have like similarly, Montgomery is about to host the Alabama Book Festival. It's a 1-day thing, and I don't know the number that attends, but my guess would be under 2,000.
Yeah.
I was actually in it last year. Kind of a waste of my time because I'm just not established enough of an author.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. I enjoyed it. I'm going to it. It's the April 20th, I think. So, anyway. But it's home to 4 authors. No one I know by name, but they're not like self-published guys. They're like for real authors. It's also home to the only lawyer to ever be hanged for murder in England. He poisoned some folks.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, so
moving on.
Alex Johnson has written a book on this subject called Book Towns: 45 Paradises of the Printed Word, and we'll link it on the blog. Mm-hmm. So if you want to pick up a copy, we'll provide a link where you can on there. But I looked, and in the U.S., there are 3 of these book towns: Archer City, Texas, Hobart, New York, and Brownville, Nebraska. So, Texas road trip?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I'm down. I want to check out one of these book towns. I want to see what it's about because, kind of my secret dream now is we need to pick a small town around here in Alabama and convince them to be a book town. I mean, all we need is a couple bed and breakfasts, a couple bookstores. Where what is it? Monroeville is where Harper Lee is from. Yep. We just convinced Monroeville you're already a destination because of Harper Lee. Let's add some more bookstores.
Just
add
go
some bed
with
and
it,
breakfasts.
really
go
dig deep,
all
go all in on it.
Because there's no for book lovers, it's a destination. And I think it could work. So I do want to pick up this book because I want to see more. I gotta read about all these book towns so I can see our new. All right. Books, Beards, Booze, our first quest.
Our first quest. I like how our first quest is this ridiculously difficult thing that we're not going to be able to do for many years.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get a book town in Alabama.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. We have a goal. We have a quest.
We have a completely and totally reasonable goal. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. All right. So that's what I have on my news. Check that book out. I know I will be. So final bit of news and booze. Derek, what's the news with Doors of Stone?
There is none. It will never be done, and I hate everything.
All right, moving on. Next up, we have our segment, Chat from the Eagle and Child. Still not going to explain it. Look it up. Where we talk about what we're writing and what we're reading. It's Camp NaNoWriMo month, Derek.
Is it? Because
could have fooled both of us.
Yeah, 100% could have fooled us.
Oh, definitely signed up for it.
We had such good intentions.
We did. And you know what? This is the first nano anything I'm going to fail. I have done, at this point, 6 nanos.
It'll be liberating, though.
And I have won every one of them. This is going to be the first one I fail.
But it's going to be good. It's going to be good because it's going to be the first time you haven't done it. And you know what? The world's going to keep turning and you're going to keep writing and you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll be honest, this is taking up a lot of my energy. Just getting up a good start on it. Mm-hmm. My energies towards this will be able to be lessened now that we've got the ball rolling. But there's a bunch of behind the scenes stuff that had to happen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this week I wrote nothing.
Feels weird, doesn't it?
It does. I just work was crazy, and then in between the recording of our 2 podcasts, I wrote some stuff.
Yeah.
But this actual week, because, bit of disclosure, we recorded the first episode weeks before it went live. Mm-hmm. And originally we were going to record way ahead, but we've decided to record on a weekly basis now so that we can get crowd interaction, so to speak. And so this week I wrote nothing except for some blog posts.
Yeah. I think
you wrote your Earthsea review.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure that was this week. It was I think Monday when I finished it. I wrote a review of Earthsea, which actually the day we're recording that it went up today.
Yeah. So it went up today. Go check that out. It's a good review. And actually, next week you have another review.
I do. Up. Yeah. Next week is Goblin Emperor, which I finished a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
That one I feel more comfortable with that review. Full disclosure, had a lot of trouble with the review for Earthseed.
It's not as dense of a book. There's less to say.
Yeah, that was an issue.
Great book. But yeah, go read the review to find out all his thoughts.
yeah. But also, what I have started writing is I'm writing a review or a piece. I don't even know if it's going to be a review or just an article on Magician.
Oh yeah,
because I finished that.
Yeah.
The problem is, I don't know how I want to approach it, if I want to do just a strictly book review, or if I want to take an angle on it and just write an article about, like, I don't know, the series that are influential to us as authors.
Oh, yeah, that'd be really cool.
Or something like that.
We could do that, like a repeating feature.
Yeah, something like that. But anyways, that's what I've been writing this week, is working on that after I've finished with the Earthsea review.
Okay. As for reading, weirdly, we are both reading books by the same author.
And it's caused some very interesting conversations.
It has. So I'm currently reading the third book in John Marco's first trilogy. I don't know what the name of the trilogy actually is, but it starts with Jackal of Nar. But the book I'm reading is Saints of the Sword, and like it's John Marco, his first trilogy he wrote back in the early '90s. I am liking this book so much more than the other two. This book is everything that I wanted the first two books to be so far.
Really?
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better.
Is it just that character that you don't like?
No, actually, he just showed up, and he's actually not getting on my nerves. This is the first time since the opening scene, pretty much with him, that he hasn't gotten on my nerves.
Yeah.
And it's great. This book is really good. That said, I'm not going to read a trilogy for a while.
You can always try what I do, which is start a trilogy and then move on.
No,
I can't. Well, not that.
I can't do that, but
well, I mean, I'm going to read the other ones eventually. I'm not in any rush to read them in a row.
If I'm going to read them, I got to read all three at once. But no. Also, I did a review of Nimona, graphic novel. Read it. Amazing. Read the review if you want to know more what I said about it. But it was just really good, solid graphic novel. Just really great. Highly recommend it. Go pick you up a copy.
As for me, the John Marco book that I'm reading is The Eyes of God, which I bought years ago, and I don't remember how I got it, or even... I couldn't even tell you where or when it was, but I picked it up, started reading it. It was a longer book. I ended up getting busy with something and putting it down. I've tried to read it again since then, got much deeper into the book, but again, put it down. This time, I'm going to finish it, because, I mean, it's a pretty hefty book.
Yeah, all his books are pretty doorstoppery.
But I'm enjoying it. It's just... When we finish those
we're definitely going to do a bonus podcast on John Marco, because
this is very interesting.
Oh yeah,
but I'm enjoying it. I think there's an element to the book that I hope, as it continues, ramps up, because it's the most interesting part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
it's probably had the least impact on the story so far. So if that ramps up, then this story could be very good. I think I'm kind of hovering around. This isn't quite as good as The Goblin Emperor, in my opinion.
Yeah. Few things are.
Well, I thought Goblin Emperor was very good, but not exceptional. And then I think this is very good, just not as good.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's weird. You said you forgot where you got it. I picked up the Jackal of Nar, probably not long after it came out. Like, maybe even when it came out. And, I read it, and I can see where it was kind of influential on me. Parts of it were influential on me, and like parts of the scenes from that stuck with me until today. So like, I don't know, 15, 20 years on or something, a ridiculously long amount of time. And I only ever found the second book, and I was like, I'm not going to reread it until I get all three of them. And I just recently, I lucked into the third book. And thank you, Second and Charles in Birmingham, for having that. And so I was like, you know what? Now it's time. I'm going to read it. And just the way my schedule is, if I'm going to dedicate the time to read, I don't want to dedicate that much time to read. So after this, I'm going to take a break from reading series and read some standalones for a little while. And I think Tigana, gay guy Gabriel, however you say his name, I think that's going to be my next read.
I also, which will lead into the next thing we talked about, I also read a little bit of my Hellboy trade.
Oh, yeah.
Which we'll talk about later, but God, it's just every time I just have
Hellboy never gets old, man.
It just it's like when it's not in front of me, I forget how much I like it.
Yeah.
And then I put it down, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Hellboy would be, let's get some Hellboy. And then I open it, I'm like, oh God, it's so good.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. You should always read Hellboy if given a chance. Pick some up.
And then I'm also listening to the audiobook of Silverthorn. Those are the things that I've been experiencing of late.
I'm about to start diving into audiobooks pretty heavily, but right now I'm just listening to Hello from the Magic Tavern, which is an awesome podcast.
I was going to start that this weekend, but I couldn't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it's an awesome podcast. It's fun. Y'all should check it out. Not at the expense of our podcast, but yeah, if you were going to check out a podcast that wasn't ours, it would be that one. All right, so that's what we're reading. That's what we're writing. So let's dive into our short story, Tall Glass. This week, as we've already stated, I believe, it was A Tiny Feast by Chris Adrian. So, we both love this story, and to start out, let's talk a bit about Chris Adrian. Every time we do these, I'm going to provide a history on the author. So, Chris Adrian was born in 1970, and he got a degree in English from the University of Florida in 93.
SEC.
Woo! SEC boy. And then he got a bunch of degrees in doctor stuff.
That is the correct term, by the way?
Yeah.
Doctor stuff. That's
Doctor
what it says on the diploma.
Pretty sure. Pretty sure his diploma reads doctor stuff. And so he's currently a professor.
Of what, you say?
Of doctor stuff.
Ah.
According to the internet, he's a professor of doctor stuff. He also graduated from the Iowa Writers Workshop, which, if you know much about writers' workshops, that's kind of like the creme de la creme. So, graduated from that, and it shows. He's written 4 novels and a bunch of short stories, which have been collected. And there's a bunch. This is on the New Yorker, and I think he has several others on the New Yorker.
Yeah, he has multiples.
Yeah, because he's great. And he won a Guggenheim Fellowship, which I had to look up. I'd heard of them, but you hear about all these fellowships, but do you really know, like a Rhodes? I don't know what a Rhodes Scholar is. Really, I know it's prestigious, but I don't know what it is.
The only reason I knew what this one was Joe Rogan, and they talked about it on there.
Well, yeah. For those who don't know, they give you, I think it's like $46,000 to spend however you want, and the idea is they give you this money so that you will spend time on whatever it is that you do. Like in his case, he's a writer. So like, here's $46,000. Hopefully this will take some of the strain off so that you will actually
continue to do your thing.
Yeah, continue to do some writing. So one of those. They don't just give those out to everybody.
No.
And if you really liked this, one of his novels, The Great Night, uses Oberon and Titania.
Which is really exciting because I kind of want to read that now.
Yeah. And I read the wiki on it some time ago, and it sounded pretty neat. I think it all takes place over the course of like one night in the park Mission Park, I think.
I imagine it's not a super long novel either.
I don't know. I don't know much about it. But he also has a collection of short stories, which I think I'm going to get that first.
Which I'm excited about because that means I don't have to buy it.
Yeah. So, and we will provide links to both of those are already provided in the blog about this, because we try and show support. Like, we're getting to read these stories for free. Like, you should show this author some love and go buy their books. So, now we each bring a fact that's in some way related to the story. And Derek, how about you start us off?
Well, my fact is in relation to Hellboy. Which is why I mentioned it in the reading of what we've been reading part. if you've read the story already, which you should if you're listening to this because it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, we're going to spoil the fuck out of it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Lots of the spoils. They mention changelings in it, and it's based around two of the main characters are
Oberon and Titania.
Thank you. I don't know why I can never say her name because it always. Anyways, but I remember there being a story in my Hellboy graphic collection, which was Volume 3, Hellboy and the Chained Coffin and Others. The first story in the book was called The Corpse, and it's a Mike Mignola.
Of course it is.
Anyways, it's called The Corpse, and it's a kind of Mike Mignola retelling of an Irish folk tale called Teague O'Kane and the Corpse. The basic gist of it is Hellboy hears about a changeling, goes and speaks to it, and goes off to try and find the child, and has to go through like a Herculean kind of task of do these things for these fairy folk, and they'll give you back the child. And the person that he's doing the tasks for, not directly, but through some minions, is Oberon, who shows up twice in the story drawn, but I don't think he actually interacts with him. He's just kind of like looming in the background, and you see pictures of him, which is why I was a little confused at first. I had to double check when I was reading it because they reference they never even use his name in the story. They just call him the King of Fairies. I'm like, is there another king? Like, he's the King of Fairies in pretty much everything I know. Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty interesting that he was in one. I imagine he might be in more Hellboy stuff. I don't know because I've only read a small amount of the Hellboy that exists.
I think I've read 4. Isn't there like 10 trades of it?
There's a lot of it, but
I think I've read 4.
I should read more of it. Yeah. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So my fact is about the history of Oberon, how he came to enter our modern day media. So he starts out as Aelbrick. Maybe. Could be mispronouncing that. I don't know. Aelbrick. A dwarf who is overcome by Siegfried, who, if you don't know, is kind of a famous mythological hero from German literature. Also owns a tiger, I believe. No. Okay, Siegfried Roy. Okay, no. All right. He was the guardian of the treasure of the Nibelung, which probably also mispronounced. But this story comes in like the 13th century. Oberon is the French way of saying Aelbrick. Cool little snippet. In one version of the story, he's the son of Morgana Le Fay and Julius Caesar.
Which is weird.
It is, but actually, like, a lot of the Arthurian legend stuff involves Caesar. Like, have you ever read the old Prince Valiant comics? Like, he actually Prince Valiant, who was one of Arthur's knights, he goes to Rome and stuff like that. Like,
really?
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot of overlap there. So, but yeah, I've never heard any story where Morgana Le Fay hooks up with Julius Caesar.
But, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that's where Oberon came from. Well, all right, so the French version of it, they took that German story and mixed it with some real people from the 9th century. Like Hugon of Bordeaux or Huron of Bordeaux, something like that. I forget the name. Anyway, Shakespeare heard a translated version of this story around 1540, or at least the translation was a 1540 translation, called Huron of Bordeaux. Probably mispronounced that too, because I have a theme going here. But anyway, so that's how we get Oberon and Titania in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah. Which I studied in school, and it was very interesting. I read it and saw a bunch of different productions of it. It was cool.
Yeah. I think I actually saw that at Shakespeare Festival, at ASF. They do productions of it on occasion. So, very cool. All right, so let's discuss it. Let's dive in on this.
Yeah, it was so it was exceptionally well written. And I say that so that I can avoid saying that it was a good read, because it was sad.
It was sad. Actually, so we had we encourage people to comment and let us know what they think about the story. And we had a comment by a fan, Tanya. I gotta say, it's gotta be, you got something special when your ex-wife actually likes what you're doing. So we got to be doing something right, because she's become a pretty big fan of the blog and podcast. And here's what she had to say: I liked the blend of magic and medicine. It felt seamless. Seeing Titania's relationship with both Oberon and the boy evolve was great. All in all, I enjoyed it about as much as one could enjoy a story about a kid dying of cancer. Which
is what the story's about.
Yeah. To me, it's the best modern fairy tale I've ever read. And just the idea of fairies get a changeling, and the changeling has leukemia, and how they deal with that. It's such an amazing premise. Like, not amazing, like, yeah, fuck yeah, a kid got cancer, but like, just such an intriguing premise. And Chris Adrian, obviously playing to his strengths, having degrees in doctor stuff and English. I mean, she's right. He blends magic and medicine very, very well in this.
Yeah, I think the most important takeaway I had from it was just how well it depicted the helplessness of parents of a sick child. Because by using Oberon and Titania as the parents in this, not only does it make things kind of otherworldly and really interesting, it also it's like the far end of the spectrum of being powerful versus powerless, because they're these mythical creatures with magic and can basically not die and can do whatever the hell they want because they're amazing and also like, so they're that powerful, and yet they are completely useless at being able to save their child, basically.
Yeah.
So it kind of does really, really well demonstrating by, I don't know, hyper-realization, like...
Hyperbole, just very hyperbolic.
Yeah, just making it very extremes to show what it's like. And I thought that was probably the best thing that it did.
It was real good. My takeaway from it was, and I put this in the blog. I think like the kind of the motto of this would be "Love is poison," because I think they killed the kid. I think they inadvertently killed the boy. That tiny feast, like the boy was having his ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. But then they give him that tiny feast after they told him, like, he can't eat. Like, don't eat. Don't feed him, And they feed him, and I think it introduced something into his system, and that's what made him sick. It talks like a fungus growing in his bones of his face kind of deal. Mm-hmm. I think what he ate gave him an infection that killed him. And, it's like what they just loved him so much, in the end they couldn't refuse him what he so desperately wanted, and I think that's what killed him.
Yeah, and it was interesting reading that, because if you come up from that direction, there's also the idea that like potentially they could have been what made him sick to begin with, because in the very beginning they specifically say that Titania was the one that noticed that he was getting sick, or that he wasn't feeling right, so she kept giving him richer and richer sweets and more magical stuff.
Yeah.
So you could look at it from the context of foreign power or foreign objects basically being introduced to this child. Like, he shouldn't be eating these magical created
and so maybe that's what
stuff like that.
What gave him,
and then it's also what ends up
killing
him too.
Can we address the real elephant in the room? Beastie.
Yeah. That was uncalled for.
God. All right, so I've now read this story 3 times. First time I read it was, at this point, like 2 months ago, when I was first starting this whole process of Book Spirits and Booze. And then I reread it, and I actually reread it right before recording this. First time I read it, that line just didn't hit home for me. Like, it just didn't. It was almost like, I don't know how to put, like, flippant, excessive. Like, it didn't resonate. Second time I read it, it's like it slotted perfectly into place.
Talking about the very, very last.
And from the back of the room, Oberon's like, yeah, Beastie died of grief. Yeah. It's like, and it's the 1-2 punch that just really, like, punch 1 is basically the whole story, and then punch 2 is...
That second was like...
Beastie died.
That's the punch you get clipped with as you're dropping already.
Yeah.
You're like, was that necessary?
Put you down.
Yeah, it was like, well, it's not even necessary. I was going down already.
Yeah.
Like, but at the same time, well,
God. Ugh, Beastie. That said, I want a Beastie. Lay at the foot of my bed.
Yeah.
It'd be nice. If it doesn't have a head, it can't eat, so it doesn't need to eat. That's perfect for me. I could just,
And speaking of Tanya earlier, how much would it be fun to just, like, use that to creep her out, considering...
Oh, yeah. I'm always trying to creep her out, so... God, I'm such a good ex-husband. But yeah, no. What was your favorite line?
Oh, right.
I can give mine.
Before we talk about that, though,
okay.
I think my favorite part, not necessarily the line, but my favorite part is the procession out of the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
When they're just like, fuck it.
We're done here. We're fucking done.
Hiding what we are.
Yeah.
And they just roll out, and they're all upset and everything like that, and the whole...
procession.
Yes. Whoa.
Oh, and I do have one, like, I've thought about it. I only have one critique of this story. Like, it is about as perfect of a story as you can get. Here's my critique. Mm-hmm. First time I read it, I'm diving into this story, and the doctors' names are Blork and Beetle. And I just assumed, because I know Titania and Oberon, mm-hmm. And I just assumed, these are fairy doctors.
Oh, no.
Like, it just read as like, oh, they're fairy doctors. Like,
I didn't get that impression.
Oh, I did. The first time I read it, like, I mean, like sure, once you read a little more, you come to realize, oh, hey, yeah, no, these are human doctors, but, like, the names are very fairy-like.
Yeah, but in, like, the third paragraph, they say that that's why they're the only names
right, that they can remember. Yeah. No. And, like, it just, to me, like, if I was doing it, I would, like, maybe one of them be Blork or Beetle, but the other one be, like, Jim.
I feel like there's a reason to that. There's probably some meaning behind those names.
Maybe, but it just... And maybe he just did it that way so he could put in the part later on about, like, oh, those are the only names they could remember because they are so fairy-like. But going into it, it just left it... And even then, that's such a minor quibble. Such a minor quibble. Like, I'm really splitting hairs to even get that. Like, that's not, like... That is my only...
Yeah, I mean...
Only quibble with this story.
If I'm honest, I didn't think that at all. Like, I just immediately was like, oh, hey, this is a modern-day fairy tale. They're at a modern doctor.
Yeah. So what was your favorite line?
My favorite line was very close to the beginning, and it's, I am indifferent to it, she said, holding the boy closer and squeezing him, putting her face in his neck. It's when you first realize that she's coming around to the boy, and, like, you're like, oh, so because immediately before that, Oberon brings the child home to, like, as a gift for her after a big argument, and she's like, I don't really like it, sleep away from me and stuff like that. Yeah. But that same night, she like, oh, hey, mom duty time. Like, she just connects with it pretty quick, and even though she wants to pretend like she has it. Right.
Okay. Mine is the same line is given twice, and it's, what a terrible gift you have given me. Mm-hmm. And, the first time she says that, it's like a legit, oh, God, she's doing it to get a rise out of Oberon. Like, oh, you've given me such a terrible gift. Oh, you piece of shit. I don't really like it, as she holds it. Mm-hmm. With the second time, it's like, I think the second time she says it is like, it's the kid is back real sick. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's after the tiny feast. It's like they've gotten the bad news.
Yeah.
And she says it again, like, what a terrible gift you've given me. And, like, it's the same line given twice, and it has completely different meanings both times. Like, worlds, like, there's...
Completely opposite, really.
Oh, yeah, and there's a mountain of just weight behind it that second time, of just emotional torment and just love. And, oh, God, it's one of the most masterful lines. Just the way it's done, I just, oh,
it's
God.
very well done.
Can't get over that. So, is there anything else you want to add on A Tiny Feast?
Just that as soon as I finished reading it, I started opening up other short stories by the same author on The New Yorker. Like, I clicked on it because it's got a link for his name. I just clicked on his name and just like, short stories, click. And just...
All right. Well, I don't have anything else to add, so, all right. As your reward for listening to the podcast, you get a jump start on next week. Next week's story is They're Made of Meat by, Chris Peterson, I think is his name. Chris Peterson. I don't have my note in front of me because I'm an awful podcast host, but They're Made of Meat. It's a very popular story on the internet.
There's a fairly good chance you've already read it.
Yeah. Monday, we will be doing our usual thing and posting up a link to it, and so you can get it there. But if you want to get a jump on the week, that's what we'll be doing next week. They're Made of Meat. All right. So, about the last major segment we do, we call our book battle. It's where we pick a topic, pick a question, and debate it. And we would love your suggestions. Send us in questions to booksbeardsbooze@gmail.com, and we will answer your questions. But this week's is, what book has the best magic system?
This is a tough one.
All right. And it was a tough one, and it led to me having some realizations along the way.
Uh-huh.
All right. So... the answers I went with, I thought up almost immediately, but I was like, you know what? I need to look. I need to look online, see what other people are saying, because I know I'm forgetting something. I just know I'm forgetting something. And started looking, got onto Reddit, which is sometimes a mistake, sometimes awesome. And they had a thread where it's like, list your 5 favorite magic systems, and it was more or less a Rothfuss-Sanderson circle jerk. It was everybody just talking it up. Is Sanderson probably the best creator of magic systems alive today? Yes. There's a reason there's a rule named after him. Rothfuss does an incredible job, and his books are probably the best written. But god damn it, there are so many other good things out there. It's like those two suck all the air out of the room. So going forward, I'm challenging us to, as much as possible, limit our talk of those two. Like, sometimes like this. Like, you can't talk about designing a magic system without mentioning Brandon Sanderson, because he does the best job of designing magic systems out there. So, but just keep in mind, like, there's so many other authors out there that are great and aren't getting the love they deserve to a degree because of this. The other thing that I got made aware of was a lot of magic systems are really derivative, but are really great.
I think it's important that you take into account how they're used. Mm-hmm. Just because they're derivative from a origin standpoint doesn't mean that they're used in the same way.
Right. No. But so basically the point that some of these people were making that I agree with is that it's not really fair to compare, spoiler, here's my 2 examples, Earthsea and the Rune Lords. Okay? I'm going to argue that they are the 2 best magic systems in books out there. Wizard of Earthsea and David Farland's Rune Lord series. But for 2 very different reasons. Ursula K. Gwyn didn't invent true name magic.
Yeah.
That'd have been a thing for most of humanity, like going back to, primitive, tribes folk.
Come on, Bob. Language doesn't work that way.
I ended up getting to an argument with a guy on Reddit about whether or not true name magic made logical sense, and I was like, "You realize we're talking about magic, right?" Anyway, but the Rune Lords is really original. That's really original magic system. So
I think what it comes down to is we're asking different questions though, because
right.
what does best mean?
Yeah.
Because does it mean inventive?
Well,
or does it just mean?
And that's it. Like when we ask these questions, I don't ever necessarily want to 100% nail down what it is because.
Whereas I do, because then we could have these. Because then we know you can't have a discussion or debate if you don't have the criteria. So we're not coming at things from the same direction.
Right, but I like that though. Because I want to leave it open. It's like, what do you think is the best magic system? Not what do you think is the best magic system using this, and this criteria. Like I would rather you leave it kind of open and answer it how you want to answer it. And because other people, like if you narrow it down too much, if we narrow it down to like criteria X, Y, and Z, some people listening, they might not have read books that fit the mold. So I like leaving it open.
Well, I mean, my point is being specific enough to say original versus best.
If you want to narrow it down on your answer, you're more than welcome. Like, that's what I did. I was like, what's the best magic system out there? For me, the best derivative and the best overall is Earthsea. And the most original, really good, I'm going to say, is Rune Lords.
Well, you're wrong.
That's fair. For those of you who haven't read it, Earthsea uses true name magic.
Well, Earthsea, coming from the guy who just finished reading, uses lots of different types of magic.
Yeah.
True name is only one of them.
Right. But picking one system, I went with true name. And the reason I like it is because, the reason I fell in love with it is because in Earthsea, you use the language of dragons to do true name magic. And it's like literally like the language of creation kind of deal. And you cannot lie with it. And that's kind of how it works. If you say in this magic, I am an eagle, you can't lie. So it becomes true. So you shape change into an eagle. And I just love that. I love that so much. It's my favorite thing in magic ever. That said, Rune Lords completely different. How Rune Lords works is you put a brand on yourself and a brand on this other person, and you take one of their traits. You can take like their strength, you can take their eyesight, you can take their wisdom, you can take their charisma, and they forever lose that trait until you die, and you gain it. So what people do, like these Rune Lords, is they convince people, like normally it's like kings, like these kings will be like, all right, hey, you're very strong, you're very strong, you're very strong. Give me your strength. I will provide for your family, and I will take care of you. I'll keep you alive because you're going to be bedridden because you have no strength. I'll take care of you, and I will provide for your family. And they add on to that. Well, part of why I like it so much is there's very much a risk reward kind of deal, like a penalty reward. Like you get all this stuff, but there are things you have to worry about. Like if you take on too much strength but not enough stamina, you can literally like punch so hard that you break all your bones.
Ugh.
Like, and so you have to keep things in balance like that. But it does a really good job. And like there's a huge toll there. Like you are asking someone to go blind for you. You're asking someone to never be able to speak again for you, so you can do this better than anyone else. And it's really, really great. I really innovative. I think the reason why Earthsea wins out is I would love to do true name magic, and I would not love to do Rune Lord magic.
Yeah.
So that was my choice.
I feel like you should go with the Rune Lord magic, specifically for this reason. You have had cults in the past. It wouldn't be that hard to convince people to give you their abilities.
To be fair, I never voluntarily started a cult. I just acquired a cult.
Well, that's debatable. We'll discuss that later off there. But, okay. Okay, well...
So what you got? What's your favorite?
Well, the correct answer is, and I come at this from recent experience, is the naming from Patrick Rothfuss.
Fair.
Which... Maybe I'll write a
compare the namings.
I might do that.
Okay, I would love to read that.
But a lot of the difference is just that Rothfuss goes into more detail. That's really the difference. That's pretty much it. Is because Ursula K. Le Guin basically...
I want 750 words on the differences between them on my desk in 2 weeks.
How many? 750?
750.
Okay. Anyways, that's doable. But the main difference between the two, in my opinion, just from a cursory glance at what I remember from the
Keeping in mind it's been over 5 years since I've read Earthsea and several years since I've read.
I was about to say, I finished Earthsea like a week or two ago. And then it's been so long since I've read Name of the Wind. Yeah. I mean, I probably
I don't remember all the subtle
2 whole months ago, probably. But the main difference just was the level to which they explain it for the most part, and I think that's probably my answer. But since we just talked about the whole, let's kind of try and shy away from
derivative.
Well,
quote
no,
unquote.
just trying to not even that. Just trying to stay away
from
Rothfuss and Sanderson so much. So if I'm doing that, there's 2 answers that I have. One is based on what is most fun as a writer. Like, when you're coming at things from a writing standpoint, I still think that probably the best magic system is channeling from the Wheel of Time. Okay. Because it gives you a lot of leeway. Yeah. It gives you a lot of different...
I always really like the description of like the oily sheen.
Exactly, and the idea of coiling of the way the channeling worked. You could have really good visuals to write about why and how the power works and stuff like that, which I think is really beneficial to a writer. So that's one of the more fun to play with. But I think one from a series that I think is pretty underrated. The series is underrated because it's one of my favorite series ever. But also, just the magic system is the skill from the Farseer trilogy, or the Farseer books by Robin Hobb. Yeah. The only reason I wouldn't put that as, like, my favorite here, it comes in close second or third, depending on how you want to look at it, is it's one of those systems that is more mystical than it rules based. They
don't really explain it. They just kind of do it.
Yeah, but part of that is actually a part of the story because like people don't understand how it works anymore because of X, Y, and Z that's happened in the past and stuff like that. Yeah, which makes the discovery of how these things work really interesting. But you can like read people's minds. You can also influence people for over great distances, and then it's a really cool, really interesting addition to magic in books, in my opinion. I loved it.
Quick aside, something I would potentially like to see more of in fantasy is psionics. Like psionic powers, like psychics.
Espers and stuff like that. I think the only real thing I've ever seen that in was in like Deathstalker. But I haven't done much sci-fi. There might be a lot of it.
Yeah, there's a lot more in sci-fi. Sci-fi, it's fairly common, like psychic stuff like because there's a lot of science, not necessarily behind psychic powers, but there is science out there that could lead you to believe that they could be real at some point. But you don't really see it in fantasy so much.
But, yeah, I mean, actually the skill, in a lot of ways, is psychic. Yeah. I mean, it's like...
Well, I guess really where I'm coming at it is from is like, you think like D&D, 3.5.
Yeah, I gotcha.
How there was basically 3 magic systems, clerical, arcane, and psionic.
Psionic, yeah.
And just, you don't see a ton of psionic stuff. I want to say, like, when you do, you tend to see it more in, like, creatures. Like, in bad guys. Like, evil creatures tend to be psionic. I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, my affinity for psionics going back to role players. Right. That was such a great idea, and it never
really panned out. Once Rise left, but anyway, but yeah. So, anything else you want to add on magic systems in general?
Magic systems are pretty complicated.
They are,
and you have to keep in mind what your story needs from a magic system depends on what story you're telling. So, like, one of the things that we didn't even mention was the magic of
Magician.
Middle Earth.
Oh, Middle Earth. Oh, yeah.
Because it's not really a system, but
it's frustrating.
That story didn't need that. It needed the sense of wonder that it brought. So that's not that big a deal, but it worked really well in that book because that's just what. Yeah,
that's probably my least favorite portrayal of magic ever.
Yeah, I get that, but also but when you're books like The Wheel of Time, practically the whole damn thing is about the magic.
Yeah.
So
and for it being so much about the magic, it's really, relatively speaking, not used that much.
Yeah, and also it
maybe in later books. I only read through like book 9 or 10, but maybe in later books it picks up.
They use it a lot.
Yeah, but relatively speaking, for something that this is the focus of it.
Yeah, well, it's because men can't use it that much, but
yeah.
But for that, they actually have rules, so like how it works, and you kind of have to know how it works because the plot is based on it.
Yeah.
So whereas I don't know too much about the super specifics of Lord of the Rings because I haven't read it. I know, God forbid, but because I don't know
what magic is used is
just that the rings magic.
Yeah, it's item-based magic for the most part.
Which I think there's not enough of that in books.
It's not done well.
Yeah.
It's very rarely done well.
I think that is pretty much my favorite thing about D&D is just the magic items. I think that's pretty much.
There you go, D. Next book, working a bunch of magic items. Yeah, done well. Oof. All right, so wrapping things up here, we like to end every week with a prompt, a 7-word writing prompt brought to you by Derek.
This week's prompt is write a story about an enchanted forest because they lived in an enchanted forest. Well, not necessarily the park in this one, but in general,
fairies live in enchanted forests.
Right.
No, that'd be fun. So going forward, please, you can contact us in a number of ways. Love to get your emails, booksbeardsbooze@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter, at booksbeardbooze. There's a letter count, so we had to drop the S on beards. We're on Facebook. We're on iTunes now with this. What? You can listen to us. Obviously, you're listening to us somehow. But please, just hit us up. Leave a review. We'd love to hear more from you. Let us know what we're doing wrong, what we could do better, and give us your feedback, especially on these stories, or especially if you think like, oh, well, if you like this, you should check out this book. We would love book recommendations.
Always love book recommendations, especially from me, because I haven't read as many different fantasy things.
And if you have a suggestion for our book battle question, we'd love to hear that. Or if you have here's a bit of news, we'd love to hear that as well. Please, just send us anything. We'd love to get your emails. Other than that, I guess let's just end it with go forth and grow a great beard.